Hello. I wanted to share a story, a journaling story. I wanted to share a journaling story, and since Create December's prompt for the 10th, which was yesterday, I thought this would be a really good way to do it. I have put my favorites on a 2-page spread for Saturday and Sunday. What I wanted to talk about is, one, my very favorites, and two, give a little background story to my favorites when it comes to journaling. Anyway, when I very first started journaling, I had some old Prismacolor pencils that were my daughter's, and she then gave me a small set, a 12 count of Prisma watercolor pencil. And I had a few microns from Michaels, and I also had like a few inexpensive colored pencils, watercolor pencils. I ended up with a Prang watercolor set. Then I also had an Artist Loft watercolor set that was very chalky. I ended up with a preppy fountain pen, which was like $3 when I got it originally. And then I got the Platinum Carbon desk pen, which I absolutely love. It's an extra fine nib, and I have the carbon ink cartridges. But I fell in love with the Platinum Carbon ink because it's waterproof. Once you let it dry, that's it. Now it does smudge a bit on Tomahawk River paper. That's because it has that like feel on it, that stuff. You just have to let it dry. I fell in love with fountain pens, and I fell in love with watercolor, and I fell in love with Platinum Carbon ink. My journey with watercolor started with the watercolor pencils, and then progressed from the Prang watercolors to Winsor & Newton and to Gonzai Tambi watercolors, and then to more Winsor & Newton Cotman, a bigger palette, to some Aquafine, to Daniel Smith and Schminke. I fell in love with the water aqua brushes because they're really easy to use to travel with. But then I got a hold of some of the silver black velvet brushes and the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes, along with some of the Winsor & Newton Cotman brushes. I also have some synthetic sable travel brushes. Now I would like to get the silver black velvet travel brush kit, but I haven't gotten that yet. It's a little out of my price range for right now. As I journeyed through fountain pens and watercolor, I found that I also fell in love with the Platinum Plazar, and then I fell in love with the TWSBI Echo line. I also have a TWSBI Mini, which I cannot locate right now because I hid it from Victor, and I've hid it so well that I cannot find it. I fell in love with Oohoo glue sticks, and I fell in love with washi tape, whether I have the washi tape or I create my own, which I did on this page. I found, thanks to Use It or Lose It, that the more I have, the less creative I am. The less I have, the more creative I am. I thought about what my very favorite items were to journal with. So I did my watercolors, which are in most of the Schminke. I have a few Daniel Smith in this, but most of my Daniel Smith are in here, along with a few of the Gonzai Tambi metallic ones. I love the two of them for different reasons. I probably need to try gouache, but I haven't yet because it's not a necessity. But when I sat down to think about what my very favorites were, I've been thinking a lot about when I very first started journaling, sort of the Hobonichi way, documenting my life, sort of a memory keeping kind of thing. And the more that I thought about this, the more that I realized that if I had to get rid of, and I could only keep certain things, what would I keep? What were the things that I felt like I absolutely had to have? And I wanted to do some of the paint brushes, or maybe the travel brushes, because I have been little by little adding better brushes to the mix. I won't ever, I doubt very seriously, unless it's a gift, buy a $100 brush. I'm just not a $100 brush kind of person. I'm learning, and I'm still a little rough around the edges when it comes to watercolor. Probably a lot rough around the edges with some things. Still learning though, so I don't feel like I should invest in things that are that expensive while I'm learning. Now, artist grade watercolor is a different kind of investment because there is a big difference between them. But if I were just starting, when I first began, if I were to give somebody the best advice that I could give, I would say to start with something like a Prang or an Aquafine, like the Gonzai watercolor Tambi set or the Aquafine set, or the Winsor Newton Cotman. There are a number of other student grade watercolors out there, and I would start with something really simple. When I very first started, the Prang was a lot of fun. I think for backgrounds and for just cute illustrations in a journal, the Prang or the Gonzai Tambi or the Aquafine or any of those is actually a really good start. I did the koi, and the koi are a little bit chalky and they do dry out kind of. I actually prefer the Prang to the koi travel kit. I prefer the Prang to the Artist Loft. So if I were going to say start a class on Journaling 101, I would probably tell people check out the Prang to begin with and see if you actually like watercoloring. See if you actually like doing that. And if you do, then hey, great. It's the same with the watercolor brushes. I started out with these. These are the Sei. It's from Japan. It says Japanese Traditional Colors, and it's SAI. And I got a pretty decent set of them from Amazon for not very much money. And I started out with those, and then I got a 12 count of the Zig Clean brush, and then I was given a bigger set, a 60 count in Happy Mail. I would say start out with an inexpensive watercolor brush because these are fantastic. They work really well, especially on the Tomoe River paper. And I were just starting out or teaching a Journal 101 kind of class, I would suggest those things. So looking back on my journey when I did the journal series, and then when I'm going through the things that I have and I'm looking at all of the things, some of the fancy things, some of the pretty things, some of the things that I thought would really aid my journaling, I realized that my journaling changed when I started doing more and more and more of this kind of illustrating my day. I found that for me, the more things I have, the less creative I am, the less I think outside of the box. And maybe it's because I have too many things to choose from. So when I decided to do this video for a coffee chat and to kind of, do the Create December and for Use It or Lose It, I thought, well, why is it, I wonder, the more things you have to choose from, the harder it is to sit down and be creative. Park your butt in that chair and to draw and to create pages. It's sort of the same thing with my writing sometimes. The more in depth I get into a story and the more I start dwelling on what I feel like I haven't done right or what I feel like I'm just not sure about, and I start allowing those self-doubts and all of that to creep in, the more the fear and the anxiety build. And it's the same way with my art. The more things I have to choose from, the more my anxiety builds, because then I'm like, well, God, what if that doesn't look good? Or what if that doesn't work? Or what if these things don't work together? And I don't have a huge selection of things. I have a few things thought about what I use on a regular basis. And I have some of those, the stick, you can take your brush, I can't think of what there are, pastels. They're not pastel. Derwent has some, and they're the stick, and you can put your watercolor brush on there and get the paint off of there. Those are great when you're starting, and they're great for making backgrounds, but I never use mine. I used to use them a lot, but I never use them now. So for Use It or Lose It December, I've been going through what I have. As I went through, like, okay, in the past 3 months have I used it, in the past 6 months have I used it, in the past year have I used it. There were some things I haven't used in over a year. There were some things that I've used once in the past year. I combine watercolor with pictures and collage and things like that. But I don't really do acrylic stuff unless I'm doing a project. My daughter does. I'm a watercolor person. I love watercolor. I probably would really like gouache. But like I said, I don't have a set, and instead of spending $30 on a gouache set or $20 on a gouache set, I thought about, well, for that $20 or $30, I could get more watercolors. The only gouache I probably would actually use would be the white or the black. So I may just get tubes of the white and the black gouache, and that would be that. Maybe once I tried it, it would be different. But I'm thinking about supplies, and I'm like, why spend the money on things I'm not sure about when I can spend the money on things I am sure about? But then you want to try different things, so then it ends up a catch-22. So I thought about my journaling story. If I were writing a story about my journaling experience, about where I'm at right now as a journaler, and journalist to me is a newspaper reporter, a journalist. That word just doesn't come across well for me. It doesn't sound right when I say it in regards to journaling. If it's improper English, and I'm pretty sure it is, but it doesn't seem so to me. You know, to journal, a journaler would be somebody who journals. If you are working in your journal, you are journaling. If you are a person who journals, you're a journaler. But if I were telling my story of journaling, and I were talking about the things that I use the most and the things that are my favorite, I would say it would be everyday ephemera. Things that come in the mail and advertisements, things that come on envelopes, things that are part of packaging that you get, things that are tags from clothes, wrapping paper, tissue paper that comes in boxes that you get or bags that you get as gifts. I've used all different kinds of ephemera in my journals. This came on something I got for Valentine's Day from Mr. Rockstar. These little things right here came from the Hobonichi life book, I think, or one of those Hobonichi things that they send you. I have drawn these same things before. That was back in May. This was from a Christmas card from last year, and this came in Happy Mail from last year. I have actually torn out the front and fussy cut little pictures that were on things that I got in the mail, on the inside of envelopes where they have maps, tags from clothes, things that I got for Victor that had little things, stickers, Happy Meals things that he's gotten from McDonald's, from Chick-fil-A, all kinds of little things. I have gotten those from all different kinds of places. When I think about the things that I really use the most, I took a long hard look at what I have. I realized that when I have the most fun, it's creating something out of nothing or next to nothing. Using the wrapping paper or the tissue paper or the tag or something like that. Like, I keep some of the boxes that inks come in when they have really pretty pictures on them, and I'll cut out part of it and I'll put it on my journal page when I got that ink in. I will do all different kinds of things like that. If I get something in the mail that came from a fountain pen or that came from something from Etsy or whatever, and it's really cute, even if it's a business card, I'll put it in my journal. I use pictures more and more now. I used to use pictures a lot. I'm using them again now. I went through a phase where I only wanted to draw things so I could improve my drawing and my watercolor skills. But I realized I was concentrating so hard on one thing that I left out a lot of the other things that I really enjoyed. So my story with journaling has changed, it has evolved, and it is continuing to change. Because as I go through things that I'll be sending out in the mail Friday or Saturday to go out in Happy Mail, and that's not just with art stuff for use it or lose it. I am actually sending out a few other things because I think you get to this place where you go, what? Why am I keeping that? And you start to feel like a hoarder. People came into my room and they looked in my closet or they looked under the craft table in the bins that I have stored under there. Burgess, why do you have all that stuff? You have some really cool stuff. I have stuff from way back years ago when I dabbled in scrapbooking. But as I go through everything, I'm figuring out what really works and doesn't work for me. I realized that right now, for me, the simpler the better with some things. For my art, I did this while I was at my mom's. I finally finished the Thanksgiving page, and I've realized that, you know, what I want to do versus what I am doing is not always necessarily the same thing, because I get caught in the pretties and the fancies and the temptations of thinking, well, if I could do this, or if I had this, it would make it easier, or it would make it better, or it would make it prettier, or it would be more fun, thanks to Art Snacks. And thanks to being a patron, and thanks to YouTube, that sometimes it's cool to try new things. And sometimes we get a lot from that and we learn a lot from that. But sometimes we're trying new things and we're investing a lot of money in those new things. What works for me now versus what worked for me a good while back versus somewhere in the middle are not always necessarily the same thing. I have evolved, and I will continue to evolve, and I will continue to change. And I'm going to start documenting probably once a month my very favorite things to see if anything changes. Maybe I'll do again like a chat and a journal with me to cover that. Be doing that a lot more in Patreon. I am just finding more and more that I miss doing art stuff, fun creative projects like urban sketching and plein air sketching and things like that when I wasn't doing it. The anxiety was what got me. Trying to film it or take pictures was what got me. I wanted to be brave though, and I accomplished that, and that felt so good. And there's just been so much going on. I haven't really had a chance to do that. My goal between now and the end of this month is to get out. Today is the 11th, is to get out 3 more times in December, because there are approximately this 3 weeks left. I want to get out 3 more times, and I want to get outside. And whether I do plein air sketching or I do urban sketching, it doesn't matter. I just want to get out of my yard somewhere else and go and do that. I also want to continue to do more purging, because the purging has felt really good. I found that while I've been going through all the journaling stuff, the pretties and the fancies, and some of the things, the supplies and things that I have not used, as I put them in the different stacks to go to different people, I have realized that it is freeing to let go of some of these things, because I've had expectations. Well, you know, you bought that, you need to use it. You got this, somebody sent you this, you need to do it, use it. But if it's something's not working for you, and it's just not working, the more that you try to force yourself to do something that's simply not working for you, I think the more anxiety there is over it, and then you just, you know. I'm really excited about where this is going. I think by the time I'm done with this project, which will probably continue in January, because I am not only purging things, using it or losing it from my craft stuff or creative stuff, but also house stuff, clothes, whatnots, all different kinds of things. I'm going through things, and if it doesn't resonate with me, if I don't use it, if it's broken or torn or tattered or whatever, I wouldn't say I'm con marine. That's a little too much for me, but I am going through things, and it feels really good. It feels really freeing. My journaling story, I think I went way off course with this, but in a nutshell, for me, if I'm going to try something new, from now on, I'm not investing a lot of money in trying anything new. I actually considered stopping art snacks, because the last 2 boxes have only had like 1 or 2 things that I actually like. But I think it's important for me to try new things. I don't want to get stuck in getting rid of all the things that I hardly ever use, and then get back to that phase where I'm only doing like some things and I'm not getting out of my box. I'm not trying anything new. But I don't want to be so overwhelmed with the temptation to buy all the things or try all the things. I want to be pickier about what I do, try and use. I have a limited budget, a very limited budget. If I want to invest in a better editing software, or a HP sprocket, or another fountain pen, or more watercolors, or some of those silver black velvet travel brushes, things like that, I have to save money, and I can't save money if I'm constantly trying all the new things. I'm going through everything and realizing that just because something's out there and it's a fancy thing, or it's a pretty thing, or it's a new thing, doesn't necessarily mean I have to buy like the whole thing. So Art Snacks is a really good way to try new products, and Michael's coupons are a really good way to try new products. Instead of buying a whole set of something, I can buy one individual thing and try it and see if I like it. Or that happens with the Art Snacks box as well. You know, different things like that. And I think it's a really good idea to think outside of the box. I can't afford to buy all the sticker sets. I can't afford to get a monthly subscription. The more I've thought about it, the more I've realized that I really would rather either draw my own or learn how to create my own stickers. And I think that might be one of my goals for next year, is to learn how to create my own little doodle stickers. So I'll be doing some research into that next year, because I would like to draw them and create PDFs for Patreon for people and as patrons to actually create their own kind of stickers, do mine and figure it out for next year, is to create my own stickers out of my little doodles, because I love to create those little kinds of doodles. I would also like to learn how to use some kind of photo, like Photoshop, but I can't afford Photoshop, so I've been thinking more and more about using Adobe Premiere Lite or whatever it is. You can get the one that has the video editing software with the photo thing as well, and just kind of do the basics, because I'm not a I like having some things with the videos, a little bit of fancy stuff with my videos, but I want my video to be about the content and not all the fancy stuff. And I think that's becoming more and more apparent with my art as well, with my journals as well. I want it to be about the content and the quality and not necessarily all the things. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great one. I will see you again soon with some more Vlogmas videos, some more Create December and Use It or Lose It. Bye, y'all.